Welcome, everybody, to the Falling Forward podcast. My name is Dan Adams with Mass Live Media, episode number 1. For number 1, I have one of a kind, my good friend, Dom Nati. There are not too many folks or guests on this show that I will be able to say I spent time in their basement. Dom is one of those people. This podcast is sort of, there's a million podcasts out there that will tell you, Dom's shutting off his camera now, there he is. A million podcasts out there that will tell you how to do what I do and you can have what I have. But this podcast is dedicated to people that just made a ton of mistakes in order to find their way into, their niche or space or passion. And Dom's one of those guys. So I'm not going to give away his whole story, but Dom, welcome to the show.
Dan Adams.
Good to see you, man.
Thanks for. I'm here for the series premiere. If this doesn't sell the show, then nothing will. I need to get a big name like this. This is how you pitch shows.
I had to pick the guys with the 2 best hair. It's not often you're the guy with the 2nd best hair on like a podcast, right? You do a lot of interviews.
Dan, it's hard for me to admit, but it's the truth. This is my rival with hair. Yeah, that's all I'm really looking at, and that's all that matters in life.
The hair, I know. Listen, I did. How long did I spend in your basement? How long did I live in your basement for?
I think, was it 4 months, 3 or 4 months, maybe, or is that
4
too long?
months. Oh man, what a wild ride! It was me and my wife actually, who's now my wife. She wasn't my wife then, but she is now.
You guys were living in sin in my basement. Yeah, that's we offered that to you.
And I'll never forget. I was, you're not living in somebody's basement because you're on a winning streak, right? That's never the way it happens. It's like, life's going pretty good. I'm gonna go live in my basement. But you gave
nowhere to go but up. Yeah.
Yeah, you gave me an opportunity to earn some bread, and you said, listen, this is what I do. I'll teach you what I do, and maybe make a couple bucks. And I had the opportunity to act as a celebrity publicist, I guess, under your brand for a little bit. And that's when I really understood what it is you do, right? You're called the King of Contacts.
Yes. Yeah, that's the nickname that's stuck. Along with a couple others, but we're going to go with the King of Contacts. And yeah, so basically, I kind of what appeared to be was like digression. I started off working in films. I worked on movies. I worked on Talladega Nights, the Will Ferrell NASCAR comedy. And then after that, I said, I want to go into reality TV. And then I worked in reality TV. I worked on about a dozen shows for 7 years. And then I just didn't really like being on someone else's schedule and being on set. So I started writing press releases for my own show, for a show that I had an idea about. Well, actually, it was my friend's show, and I was trying to promote it for him. And I got interviewed by all the news stations. I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was like, oh, you know what? I think I'm better at getting exposure for these shows than actually working on it. I did some camera operating for the Charlotte Hornets and some different places and some hockey teams. And I was just always kind of average in production. But in PR, I was like, well, this I could do from anywhere. And I seem to be better than other people, which is a first for me. So before this, I had 40 jobs before I got into media. So, so what I do now is I started doing PR for entertainers. My first music client was DMX. Who is a rapper that was well known in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I loved it. I loved it more than working on movies. I loved it more than working on TV, more than working in sports. I don't know.
That was your first client?
That was my first music client. I had some.
How do you go from no music clients to maybe, I think you can make an argument, the most influential rapper of the late 90s, for a decade, he was probably the most influential hip hop artist. How do you go from no music clients to your first music client is DMX? How does that happen?
I will tell you the true story. I was working in sports, so I started my company, believe it or not. And Dan, you would know how funny this is because I know you're a real sports fan. But I started my company working with athletes. I worked with NASCAR drivers, and I worked with some NBA players, and I got contacted by this show on ESPN. Damn it. I can't remember the name of this. 30 for 30, maybe? Maybe not.
It wasn't Sports Center, was it?
It wasn't Sports Center. I think
Okay,
it was
all
called
right.
30. Is that like
Yeah, the documentary.
a documentary? Yeah.
I remember this one about the NASCAR driver that made right-hand turns instead of left-hand turns. Is that him?
About that. It was they said it was a friend of mine that I became friends with at ESPN, and he said, "Do you have anyone? We're doing this bit on gambling or whatever." And I said, "I know this basketball player, but I think he's in jail. His name is Isaiah Ryder, and he played. Do you know what that is?"
Yeah. He played for I think the Atlantic Hawks. They called him Baby Jordan maybe for a little bit. He was like a high-flying dunker. I remember him. Yep.
And he was a good basketball player, but he was in jail in Arizona.
Excuse me, just for the viewers. Harold Miner was Baby Jordan. Harold Miner was Baby Jordan. Isaiah Ryder still. Yes, I do remember him. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Isaiah Ryder won the dunk contest, and he was in jail in Arizona, and I was trying to get a hold of him, and I talked to his wife, and then I saw that his wife had this picture with DMX's fiance, and then I said, "Oh my goodness, that's actually my favorite rap artist ever. I'm from New York. I loved listening to him. I was a teenager at the time." And she was like, "Oh, he's getting out of jail soon." She's like, "I'll connect you with his baby's mother." One of his several baby's mother. I think he has 15 kids now.
15?
15 by possibly 11 different women. I can't remember. Yeah. So there's a lot of them. He has his own football team of women, of baby moms. And I talked to this woman, and I said, I would do PR for him, because I was just like a fan. And I started doing PR for him while he was in jail. I set up some interviews. And then when he got out, I spoke to him on the phone the next day. And basically it was just timing where I wanted to help him, and he needed help. He didn't have anyone else available because he just got out of jail, which he gets out of jail a lot. And then we started working together, and we worked together for 4 years, and it was a wild ride. Wow. But after, people just saw me in news articles, and I was having to explain things all the time and talk to TMZ and talk to, all these different the New York Times and all these people that wanted updates of why he's getting arrested and try to spin things. And I learned a lot on how to spin things, like how to be a publicist, how to take a negative story and think, how can I do this? And the ironic thing is that in my life, I'm very boring. I've never been arrested. I don't actually spin things in real life. Like, I just own it. But when you have a client, it's like you get to take on a whole different persona, and you just look at that. And I'll tell you, what I call is going ape, which is assess, prepare, and execute. So you look at the story, and you got to do this fast in this type of PR, where you assess the situation.
How fast? How long are we talking? Are we talking like an hour, a minute?
We're talking you got 30 minutes. You got to see. I woke up one morning to texts of people wanting an answer as to why DMX was running through this. He got caught by security cameras running through the hotel hallway naked. And I was like, oh my God, I just woke up. And if I don't hurry up, then they're going to write that he's on drugs, or he's high. And that really wasn't the case. It was just, he was joking. And the truth is, they were screwing around, and they were knocking on his door, and he's like, I'm not ready. I just got out of the shower. And he's like, you knock one more time, I'm going to run out, naked. So that's the true story. And he just did it thinking no one would see it. And so then I assessed the real situation, and I thought, oh my God, what am I going to say? And then I prepare my statement, and then I execute it. You got to do it fast. So I typed something up. I was like, this is the situation. It was just a dare between him and his friends. He didn't know. And if I don't get that out soon, then the rumors are going to start. He's hot,
So let me ask you. So you have to be a good writer, right? This is good. Okay. Yeah. But you have no formal training in that.
I have no formal training of anything ever.
Oh, so I think I do know about, you spend the time in a guy's basement, you learn a little bit about him. You went through, I don't know if it was a bankruptcy or like a house foreclosure, like things were not going well, right? So like, what was the job that you had prior to your your existence within the celebrity publicist world? What were you doing?
Well, it took a while. I started the company in 2006, so this is the 15th year. And in that time, yeah. So in that time, I would work a job, and I could do sales because I could talk, so I could sell anything. But I don't like people telling me what to do, and that's always been my problem. And then I'm crafty where you tell me how to sell it, and then I will find a better way how to sell it. But there's a risk to it that you might not want me to do, and that's usually where we part ways. So I've sold insurance for Allstate, policies, and I've sold copy machines. I've sold lighting. I was a chef before all this, which that didn't work out. I just really couldn't find anything that I was great at that I enjoyed, except PR, except taking. I enjoy the thrill of saying, I love media. When I got into media, it's just something about it for me that I enjoyed. And I would spend all these hours at night after work working so much harder than I did for other people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I had a lot of failures. Like I said, I had 40 jobs, and I was fired 11 times out of those 40 jobs, which is not good.
11 times? Was it was it like usually like performance? Like you just hated what you were doing, so it was like I don't really care. Like just
I was never fired for like stealing or fighting. It was just me being shit. Basically, I just wasn't performing correctly. There was no other reason. It wasn't like, Dom, we're missing things out of the office, or you're smoking crack during your shit. Like, it was just you doing your job is just, we don't want you here anymore. So that was it. And I just got used to it. And I was like, okay, and you just get used to hearing it. I just didn't like it. And if I'm not emotionally interested, I can't perform.
So you're working a regular job while you're doing the PR stuff. How long did it take before PR could be like a self-sustaining type of like gig for you? How much, so there's failure on top of failure, like you suck at regular life, and then you can't make money at your passion. And so, you're sort of like, double failure. How long did it take before, the PR work could, because I mean, you are successful. I know that. I know some of your clients, you see your, the radio show. I know you're with iHeartRadio now. You're successful now. But tell me a little bit about that. How long did it take doing two things?
It took about 4 or 5 years, and it was, it would have been quicker had I had someone to teach me, or honestly, if I had been teachable, but I come from a different era, and this is not how people are anymore, where I just sat there and I looked at it and I said, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it, and I'm just going to take all the rejection that I need to take. And I'm not going to get educated, and I'm not going to have someone teach me. I'm just going to figure it out, and I'm going to take my lumps, and so it took like 4 or 5 years because I did it my way, and that's the easiest way to say it. And it would have been quicker, but these, PR is actually a very hard thing to teach. It's not for everybody. You have to have the mind to look at a situation and say, I know how to spin this. I know exactly how to write this to grab people's attention. You have to study headlines in terms, in the English language, and verbs, and say, this is what grab, and you got to study yourself. Why am I reading this article? Why am I scrolling through social media? Why did I stop here? And then you analyze yourself. And then you read the article. Yeah.
At this point in your career, would you be able to tell whether somebody authored a press release, or after speaking with them, could you tell pretty quickly whether or not somebody's going to be successful in this space or not?
Yeah, I've had a lot of interns through colleges where people have approached me and said, I need this for a course. Can you teach me? I'm not a great teacher because I'm not a great student. So I give people some tools, and if you don't have it, then honestly, there's just no point.
I want to ask you about that, but before I do, I think if people were to look for you, you got the Gucci glasses on, probably smoking a $30 cigar. You drive a Porsche. I think if you like the optics of you are like that guy's ego's massive, right? Like he must have a huge ego, right? But I know like you actually don't. And you can actually, even on social media, I've seen people like literally berate you. And unless it's like a funny comeback, you just don't care. It almost doesn't bother you. Was that a learning process? Did you have to have your ego deflated? Everybody has an ego of some level, but like when you talk about like if you have an ego or you're too sensitive, it's not going to work out for you. Was there a singular incident, or was that also a journey? The idea of getting to a place where you just weren't as easily offended, particularly when
grab my lighter. 1 second. Let me just grab this lighter. Oh, Car went out. That's most important. That's right.
Because I have seen you go viral a couple of times, and I know, in talking with you, they were actually, in times when you actually weren't trying, because you've attempted, different characters and things of that, because your whole world is about getting attention. So I actually do want you to highlight that. But if you could just, on the ego portion of this and what it took to be able to, because one of the things, if you're going to fail forward, if you're going to learn from your mistakes, then your mistakes can't be like these defining moments, or else you won't be able to move on from them. You'll just feel the failure to such a degree where you'll quit. So what was that? Was there a singular, I guess it probably wasn't a single incident, but was there a light bulb moment where things sort of clicked where you're like, I need to be able to hear now. I have to be able to hear now.
It was a light bulb moment when I'm 42 now. I was about 23 or 24. And I met this guy that was older. He was in his 50s. He was twice my age. And he sat there and told me that he really never left the place he grew up. He started a job when he was 19 years old, and he was still working it in his 50s. And he's got all this seniority and all this paid vacation and 401k. He's like, but you know what? I had so many things I wanted to do, but I just played it safe, and now I've got money and money saved. He's like, but I didn't do anything. And something about that just scared the shit out of me. Like I just looked at that and I was like, I'm 24. Like I cannot wake up and be 50 something years old one day and think I never tried anything I wanted to do. And I realized at that moment, at 24 years old, that I created this motto for myself, and it was, I will always fear regret more than rejection. And I made that my goal, is that I sat there and you talk about ego, and this is what a lot of kids cannot understand. When I was like, I deserve to be rejected. I have no experience. I have nothing to offer you except I want to try. So when I hear no, I say, well, yeah, I deserve that. I have nothing. I have a resume. Or you sit there and you say, I have an education. So what? You're good at tests. Congratulations. You have nothing to offer people. You have no resume. You deserve no. So I go and I try my best. When I hear no, I'm like, well, yeah, of course you can say no. And I wait for that yes. With Talladega Nights, I came in and I said, I want to work on this movie. I just moved to Charlotte. My resume had like wedding videos on it and this small Christian TV show.
Talladega Nights, like Will Ferrell?
The Will Ferrell movie, yeah, about the NASCAR movie. And
who's the director of that?
What?
Who's the director?
Adam McKay, who have directed Step Brothers and Anchorman, and the producer is Judd Apatow, who did 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up.
Okay, so those are big names.
Yeah, they're big names. And
so who did you approach? Like those experience, and you're like, I want to work on this movie.
I want to work on this movie, and I met this guy, and he said, here's the fax number to fax in your resume. And he looked at me, and he looked at my resume, he was like, you can fax it in, man. He's like, I faxed in mine. He was like, but they're not going to respond. And I said, okay. And I took that fax number on a piece of paper, and I went back, and I looked it up, and I Googled it, and I found out where the production company was, in Charlotte. So I walked in with my resume and a shirt and tie, and I said, hi, I'd like to apply for a position. And I handed them this piece of paper, and the guy was like, and they're all just kind of looking at each other. I'm just like, they're like, I'm sorry, man. We've never had someone do this before. We just walk in with the resume. He was like, it's not like a McDonald's, and I was like, he's like, normally you have to be part of a union. And I was like, okay. And he's like, listen, we have one position left, and it's just driving Judd Apatow, to the set and back. And I was like, I'll take that. And he was like, well, okay. He's like, come back tomorrow. And they did an interview. And they did an interview with me. And then the guy I was up against was late, and his car broke down. And I mean, it just looked like it was not his day. And then I got the job, and they called me, and they were like, his exact words were like, you hit the jackpot, kid. He was like, we need someone tomorrow. He was like, so just,
Wow.
yeah, we'll give you a car, and everything was included. And then I got to work on the set, and it was like a dream come true. But it started with that guy telling me you could fax in your resume. And then I actually went back to that guy, and I asked him some questions. He's like, why are you asking about the movie? I was like, because I got hired. And he was like, what? Because this guy's resume was so much bigger, but he didn't have the creativity to say, well, if everybody's faxing it in, what if I walked in, and that's what made me stand out.
A couple of times you've just stumbled on, right? You've gone viral a few different times. I'm thinking about the UPS time, but maybe you want to tell a different story. Can you tell me about a time that you ended up stumbling upon viral content?
Sure. Well, a lot of it started where I tried my best to be professional, because I was like, oh my God, I didn't go to college. I'm not really a professional. I'm really just a goofball who failed at all these jobs. And you look at yourself that way. And I was like, well, I won't show the world like how goofy I am. And then I thought, I saw people doing all this content, and I was like, man, I do want to just try it. Because without a fear of rejection, I was like, if I try to be funny, it's not funny. A lot of times it's hard for people to handle, but I was like, I could just be like, all right, forget that one. Let's try something else. And I was like, and I started doing it, and I realized that it did not hurt my business. It actually helped it, because people started to see me as a real person. I'm just a goofy guy, but I can do the work for you too. I'm a good publicist, and people liked that you were more approachable. So then I started doing it more, and I was like, I'm gonna try something every day. And I think the first time that I remember is I ordered these VR glasses, and I really wanted them, and I had to go. And I was like, I don't want them to not leave these glasses. I really want to check these VR glasses out. And so I typed out this thing that was like, dear UPS, man or woman. I was like, I have to leave. But I really want to get my VR glasses. If you could please just leave them at the doorstep. I was like, I can't wait until tomorrow, because I'm an adult child, and I really want to play with them today. I can't remember. And then I was like, if you need to forge my signature, here it is. And I put Dom Nati in my signature. And then I was like, and if you need a bribe, please accept this $20 bill that I've taped to this letter. And I taped a $20 bill to it. And I made sure my name was on it, because I was like, well, if it does go viral, like, my name is on it, and it can always be credited back to me. And then I put it on the door, and I just put a picture on my Facebook, and I thought it was funny. And a friend of mine, without telling me, I woke up the next day, and it was like they were writing news articles about it. And it had gotten over 1 million views on Reddit. And I don't have a Reddit account. And MTV, I started getting calls of people wanting to do like ABC, talk to me about it. And a friend of mine from church was like, bro, I thought it was funny. And I go on Reddit a lot, and it went viral overnight and got millions of views and shares.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. Now, but that was one thing out of 100 things I tried. And I really wasn't thinking, and I didn't even do it. My friend did it. And he was like, do you mind? I was like, do I mind? I was like, bro, I love attention. I was like, this is great. Thank you so much. And it was great to the point that my actual mailman, someone sent it to her. And then when she was like, I know that guy. That guy's on my route. And then she told me, she was like, did you tape something to the door?
Mm.
I was like, yeah, that was for UPS. And she was like, my friend sent me this meme. They started making memes about it. She was like, that guy's on my route in Lynchburg, Virginia. So that was fun. And then the next time was a few months later with a video I did with Shaq, also unintentional. I was in Las Vegas.
Shaquille O'Neal.
What?
Shaquille O'Neal, the basketball player.
Yeah, Shaquille O'Neal, the basketball player. I was at this thing in Vegas. They said Shaquille will be here to take pictures with everybody. It was like this event that you had to, somebody paid for me to go, some marketing thing. And they were like, but you don't take a picture with him. We take the picture and we'll send it to you. And I was like, I don't like the sound of that. Like, because I've taken pictures with hundreds of celebrities. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want to know that I have this picture. So I took my phone and I held it down in my waist and I was recording. Just in case they never sent me the picture, I would at least say I met Shaq, because I was a big fan. And then unbeknownst to me, I talked to him for a few minutes. My first client ever was actually Shaquille O'Neal's personal chef. So I name dropped a little bit, and then he was laughing. I remember him laughing, and I was like, oh, he's just a funny guy, I guess. I don't know what's funny. And then I walked away and I looked at the video, and he had saw me recording the whole time and holding my phone down at my waist, and he made this face at it, and like at my phone. And then I posted that on Twitter, and that went viral. And it was just, but I wasn't expecting it. Like when I first watched that video, I was like, did he catch me? Because I was in his armpit. Like his arm went over my head, like that's how big he is. So of course he saw me. I don't know why I thought I'd get away with it, but it wasn't intentional. It's just me being me, and then, yeah, that went viral, and ESPN contacted me the next day and was like, could we use this? And it was fun. They put it on SportsCenter,
I should have done a little bit of research before this interview, but I'm wondering, switching gears here a little bit, how many celebrity publicists in the country are also ministers? Don't you hold like a minister? Is an ordained minister? Well, like, are you a minister? You've married, right?
Monopoly on that. Yeah, I've never met another one. The only college that I went to was actually ministry school. So I went to 2 ministry schools. I didn't finish either one of them. And
for people that know, a ministry school would essentially be like a Bible college.
Yeah, the Bible become like a Protestant minister, or just I kind of just studied because I was interested in it. And then I am ordained now. I could not find a church that wanted to actually ordain me, so I had to print out an ordination at FedEx office and ordain myself. And then, but then I did get state approved in the state of Virginia. So I've married two couples, and they're still together. So I feel like that's because.
So the ministry background probably helped with that, but didn't necessarily inform your PR work for the twerking workout videos.
Right.
I'm imagining twerking wasn't covered at Bible college.
Yeah, I don't really use a ton of my Christian education in my work, but and then honestly, a lot of them I don't even list because they don't really want me to list that I went there. So
it is interesting though, because that's a whole other show. But could you draw a parallel for me? I like what you said earlier, that you fear regret way more than you do rejection. Is there like a spiritual principle that guides your sort of day to day within the celebrity, or even this idea of failing forward, right? The idea that I think people like the new year, right? We just left the new year. It's symbolic of a new start, a fresh start, a cleansing, if you will, which, most religion is an attempt to sort of, make us feel better on some level, that we've messed up, but we can be forgiven, if you will, or redeemed. Like, is there something within like your own spiritual experience that has lent itself sort of in the running of your business? And there's probably a lot of things, but is there a particular sort of theme that you can tap into?
I think the biggest thing is just that I'm American, and when you are American and you work in entertainment, you will meet a lot of people who try to convince you and who live their life thinking this is really important. This is, and I think because I live my life, I don't take myself seriously. I realize this is not why we're on this planet. I'm just doing this for fun, for money. And I think that element is what I have different than other people, is that is their life. They want this so bad, to work with celebrities, to be in entertainment, to work on film. And that is it. That's all they have in life. That's all they want out of life. And for me, I'm just like, I love it and it's fun, but because I know that that's not why I'm here,
Mm.
it makes me work better because I'm just like, I really don't care.
Yeah.
Like if you don't want me, it's fine. If I don't make it, like it's fine. It's
You
okay.
see that a lot in Hollywood, though, like within the world you work in, like it's like the tragedies, right, of people that lose their life or even take their own life. Those folks where like it is everything, right, and all of a sudden they're not here one day. A lot of drug addiction and abuse and suicide. Do you think that's because people get so like they do take it so seriously, where when there's a letdown, they just can't handle it because it's almost like life itself? It's like, what's the point?
Yeah, it's empty. This is all very empty, and I'm fully aware of that. It's not that serious. I have friends that are ICU doctors that literally, if they can't find that bullet in that person and get that dislodged in a certain amount of time, then that patient is not going to live. Like that is their job. And I met this guy, and he's actually a client of mine now. And I was like, wow. And I looked at him, be like, that, and I look at what I do. I'm like, how can I compare to that? It's like, dude, it's not that big of a deal. I'm stirring up celebrity gossip. I'm promoting entertainers. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But to some people, it is everything, and it's empty. At the end of that, even if you achieve those goals, it's empty. I know that. Like I love it. I'm addicted to it. But I know that it's not going to make me happy.
Yeah.
And I think is the biggest difference is I meet people and people hire me. I take money from a lot of people where I know this is not going to make you happy. I can make you, famous. I can get you your popularity and notoriety up, and you think that that will make you happy. And I basically, not that I sell them a bill of goods, but in a way I kind of do. But that's what it is. It's like that's what they want, and that's what I can provide. And I'm like, this isn't going to be as great as you think it is. But that's my job,
Yeah.
in that country. I'll say one more thing. I did an interview with entrepreneur.com, and I told them one more thing about failures is, you know what? I sat there with them and I said, you know what? I've been through so many failures in my life and career, and I can't remember them. And now I've been doing interviews like every week or every month, and no one ever asked me like, well, how many people said no? They're like, tell me about this, all the successes. And I just want to tell people when you're starting, when you get past it, you will forget all those failures. So just don't focus on them. And no one ever asked me about those failures because they just want to hear about the success stories, So all those things are in the past, so don't focus on them because no one ever talks about them anymore.
If I take away two things that I can take with me, even, right? I don't know what other people, I don't know if anybody will even watch this, like, this idea that fearing regret more than rejection is one, and then two, have a short-term memory as it relates to failure, right? Like this too shall pass. That's good. That's good.
No one ever interviews me and said, man, we'd love to hear about the 79 people that didn't want to hire you.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't even talk. I don't remember them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Show 5 years ago, I was offered a show on iHeartRadio at a station out of Chicago where I interview celebrities. I've interviewed over 300 celebrities now, and Whoopi Goldberg, Bill Cosby, Gene Simmons, like all the Real Housewives, all these different reality show people. And it's a celebrity interview show. It's in its 5th season. It gets a ton of press just because I'll ask them controversial questions. One of them was used by the IRS to take down one of these reality show stars. It's been a wild ride. Whoopi Goldberg hung up on me during the interview. I mean, it's a show where I ask inappropriate questions, and they either love it or they hate it, and then I have a viewership there is no in between. They either love me or they just cannot stand me. And I know you asked that question before, how to deal with that. I didn't answer it, but you can find it. It's Dom Nati Show on all social media and YouTube. It's got almost 2 million views on YouTube and over 2 million views across all platforms. And it's been covered by CNN, Fox, Us Weekly, E! News, Forbes magazine. They've all written articles about different interviews. So it's a great way for me to get exposure, for my audio, the people on the show, the guests to get exposure. But it's it's inappropriate questions, and it's very prying, and it stirs up a lot of controversy. But there's just no other way.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love listening to your interviews. A far cry from this platform, but it's entertaining to say the least. You got a gift there, my friend. Thanks for taking the time, man. Really good to see you. Probably call you this weekend, but love you, man. Thanks so much for the time, and keep failing forward. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dan.